Thanks for tuning in to 210 Local Music Podcast. You're listening to lucky episode number 13.
210 Local Music.
This is 210 Local Music Podcast. We bring art, music, and entertainment to you straight from the Alamo City in San Antonio, Texas, where the culture of our past and the innovation and creativity of tomorrow collide. We're there. You can find us online at www.210localmusic.com, on Twitter, and don't forget to like our fan page on Facebook. I'm your host, Mario Zamron. Thanks again for tuning in, y'all. This is episode lucky number 13. It's been a wonderful ride so far. I've got to thank all of the bands, artists, musicians, singers that have been on the podcast so far, on 210 Local Music Podcast, as well as the 210 Local Music Radio Podcast. Y'all are amazing. It's really been a blast meeting everybody. For those bands that I haven't gotten to meet, we've gone back and forth on either Twitter, Facebook, text, or email. Certain individuals that I'm working with to maybe build some things down the line, as well as tons of interviews that are coming up soon. Really, the big thing that I am super happy about is just getting exposed to more local music. I think that was my mission for my listeners, and it's really been my own personal mission as well, and I think I've started to succeed. My direct iTunes account doesn't have very much, at least on my laptop, or rather my wife's laptop. Sorry about that, honey. I know you haven't really seen your laptop in like 2 years. I apologize. And then on my phone as well, I hadn't really used iTunes until the podcast, really, and just to go over what I do have music-wise locally in San Antonio on my iTunes account, I've got, and we'll go alphabetically just so people don't get sad for me not mentioning them. And there's a lot of other stuff that I haven't uploaded to my iTunes that I still do listen to every day as well. But the best example would be, I've got AFOS and his Party Rehab LP, Becca Kelso Within the Shifting Shade, Cascadia, I've got Y'all's EP on here, as well as the Sculptor EP. I've got Donella Drive, your bonus album that I believe I downloaded through Bandcamp, maybe, as well as the demo. I've also got, of course, I've got Girl in a Coma on there, Adventures in Coverland, Both Before I'm Gone, Exits and All the Rest, and Trio BC, as well as the Heatwave single, Hiding My Trail, Heroin. I've got y'all's Songs from the Southland, Volume 1, Hydra Melody from y'all's self-titled album, March Divide, got music for film and music for television, Matt Adler, The Sound and Rearranged, Missing in Alaska, The Finalist, Phonolux, Feathered Fortress, Nashville Fires, and self-titled, Piñata Protest, El Valiente, Slow Like Fire, Thieves by Nature, Terra Firma, Eyes of the Sun, Use of Time. I've got the song that you guys have sent to me as well. Anyway, that just goes to show that I've really tried to load up on listening to local music, and in a way it's really replaced my normal listening habits. I've downloaded the new Nine Inch Nails album, and I just haven't gotten a chance to hear it. I've been jamming out to Terra Firma and Hydra Melody and everybody. And again, there's quite a few bands that I didn't mention that I do have that I just haven't gotten uploaded, but I still listen to y'all through your Reverb Nation pages or your Bandcamp pages. So thanks again for sharing. Thanks again for doing what you all do. Without that, there wouldn't be this podcast, of course, and I wouldn't get to enjoy it as much, I'm sure, and anybody who's listening wouldn't get to enjoy it so much. So I'm really glad that this has started to happen. One big thing I did want to mention is that through one of my services, only one of my services, Jen Alva's episode has just under 200 downloads on one service, and I think I've got like 20 services that I go through now. But she has definitely set the record on that service. I'll check my stats elsewhere as well, but just to verify. But I'm pretty sure that they just reach a larger audience. Hopefully, through that, everybody else will get to reach a larger audience. I really do see everything that I'm trying to do, and that the bands that I'm involved with, musicians, artists, what we're all trying to do is kind of a win-win situation, where I'll get an episode from them and then exposure through their people, and they'll get exposure through my people, and everybody else benefits as well. So hopefully this continues in the way it's been going. I think it's been great. I've gotten a couple of opportunities that I wouldn't have normally had prior to doing the podcast. Actually, kind of going back to Jen Alva, thanks again, Jen, for extending the invitation for me to attend the Puro Pinche pop-up party, which was awesome. It was a blast. Got to see some old friends there, got to make some new friends. Ray Tattooed Boy, finally got to meet you. And of course, Puro Pinche, I had been wanting to meet you for a while. And it's funny, I had started the podcast completely oblivious to what else was going on in the area with regards to people that weren't directly musicians or people that were trying to do support like I was. And then after a couple of episodes, I saw the Puro Pinche show on Tumblr, and shoot, I'm like, wow, she's doing exactly what I want to do. She's doing exactly what I've been saying is needed. So I'm really glad to see that was already starting before I did. I think it's great. One of my friends asked, "Oh, well, isn't she competition?" You know what? I listened to another podcast, the Unavoidable Drudge podcast, which you guys should definitely check out. The big benefit is that Ray Tattoo Boy is one of the guests that comes on quite a bit. I haven't gotten to meet anybody else from the podcast, but they did have an episode with Puro Pinche Stephanie, and it was just really awesome to hear her say exactly what I feel, and to know that she's been doing it a lot longer as far as being on the scene a lot longer. She's got a lot of history behind her as far as, and no, I'm not saying that she's old, so Stephanie, I'm not saying that you're old. I'm just saying that you have a lot more experience doing this than I do. You have a lot more access. You've just gotten a lot more shows under your belt than I have, and I think that's awesome, and that's definitely set a goal for me to meet, and probably never beat, but definitely to catch up with. So, Puro Pinche Stephanie, thank you for doing what you do. I know I appreciate it. I know the bands that you work with appreciate it. Loved the episode with the heroin, by the way, and look forward to seeing more every single week. Now, going into this episode specifically, I want to thank Matt Adler. This is probably going to be the best sounding podcast episode you guys are going to hear from me, and at least until I can get a better setup. Right now, I'm completely mobile, so I have a little microphone that plugs into my phone. I have another microphone that plugs into my iPad. And I had one that plugged into my laptop. It was my Rock Band mic, my USB Rock Band mic, which decided to die on me during the interview with Jen. So I'm really glad I had another backup mic, which is a little Zoom H1. So I'm completely portable, which is helpful in certain situations. But at the same time, the cost is that the quality isn't there. I don't have the money yet to be able to put into the gear, which I'm hoping will pick up. So please check out the audibletrial.com/210localmusic offer. You'll hear the commercial later, so I'm not going to bother plugging it again. But the great thing about this episode is that the interview part was handled all by Matt Adler at Matt Adler's studio. Using his microphones, using his gear, he ran it through Pro Tools on his MacBook and got everything taken care of, and then sent me the files. Hopefully I don't mess up the files at all, because they sound amazing. Just really nice and buttery warmth coming out of those mics, which you'll hear about in the podcast later on as well. I am seeking sponsorship to be able to record at his studios. So if anybody's interested in doing that, you'll basically get a promo, kind of like the Audible trial thing. When I say, this episode is sponsored by, I am looking for multiple sponsors. I'm trying to find any sort of partnerships that I can work with or create relationships that I can build on, so that way I can get some new gear, and that way the podcast sound improves, and then maybe our listenership will improve, and that's good news for everybody all around. Back to that win-win situation. Anyway, do me a favor, after you listen to the episode, drop us a line. Let us know how it sounded to you. You can reach us at 210localmusic@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, 210localmusic, Facebook, same thing. We also have an Instagram, 210localmusic. And we do have a phone number now through Google Voice. I believe I mentioned it last podcast. The number is 210, makes sense, 802-1197. You can call that number. It will ring to my phone. I probably won't be able to pick it up because I do work a 9-to-5 job. But leave a voicemail and let me know how it sounded to you. And not even just that. You can use that phone number for anything else. Hey, Mario, I'd love to hear so-and-so on. Or it'd be great if you could interview this band or this artist or comedians. Like I said before, I know we're looking for comedians. But, just shoot us a line or give a shout out. Say, hey, I really love this podcast episode you had with Michelle Celeste, and it's great. I can't wait for the book to come out. I've been getting that feedback a lot as well. So shoot us a voicemail. There's a good chance that we'll probably play it on the air, on the podcast. And maybe once the 210 Local Radio podcast kind of takes off a little bit more and I can get more of a stable format going on that, which with the help of www.parachutepromise.com, that is happening. We are getting onto a new service which is going to be higher quality than the Blog Talk Radio episodes, although that one did reach a larger audience, but hopefully I can draw that audience to this new service. Hopefully we'll be able to play requests. We'll do it just like an actual radio station, so you can shoot me a voicemail, say, hey Mario, I'd really love to hear so-and-so, I want to dedicate it to whoever or whatever. You can do that, and if I don't currently have the license to play that music, I will look into the license to play that music, and if I can't, I'll try to let you know. There's a new fan page for 210 Local Music Radio. I only have 3 likes so far, but I really haven't gotten to gear up on that, but that's going to be starting real soon. Hopefully all of this comes together, and I know I'm kind of going on a little rant here, a little ramble, so I'll stop talking now. I know I've gone on a little bit long, so here's the interview I had with Matt Adler at his studio using his equipment, his mics. Tell me what you think about the sound.
This is Stacy Doodle, and you're listening to 210 Local Music Podcast.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for letting me meet you at your studio. I think that everybody's going to be able to hear that this is probably going to be the best sounding podcast that I've had so far, because you're actually going to be handling that for me. I appreciate it, by the way.
Oh, no problem.
You're getting all the you got all the recording stuff set up, and then send the files to me, and then I'll take care of the rest, which hopefully I don't mess it up from that point. So,
no, I think you'll be good.
But I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it, Matt.
No sweat.
First of all, I start off the interviews basically asking the same question. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Matt Adler. I have been doing the music thing. I've been playing guitar since I was 8. I've been singing terribly since age 14. But I've been a full-time musician for about a year and a half now, which is pretty cool. Not only do I play gigs and write and record songs and do all that stuff, but I'm also a producer, so that's why I have this recording studio out here near the airport. So, but yeah, I just feel really blessed to be able to do what I love to do for a living. So I did the 9 to 5 thing for my whole life up till that point. Well, I guess not my whole life. I went to school before.
Yeah.
But,
well, a
no
different
college.
type of 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly. No college. I just went right into the workforce, worked the 9 to 5 that I really loved until we were bought out by a bunch of really just dumb people. And so I couldn't deal with that, and so I quit, and now I'm doing this, and it's so much better.
I bet. Yeah, that's awesome. I work a 9 to 5 as well, and it's hard trying to do this on top of that, and I have a 9-month-old.
Do you?
That's the kicker.
Oh, man. So you don't sleep at all.
No. Actually, I was producing a podcast last night up until 3 o'clock, and then I stayed up with him because he woke up. So.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I mean, hey,
Hey, I'll sleep when I die, right?
Absolutely. Or at least when he's a little bit older.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see how that'll work. So are you originally from San Antonio?
I've been here since I was about 7 or 8, but before that I was in New Orleans. And
okay, cool.
I definitely do still hark back to New Orleans as being kind of like my hometown, mostly because of the food. And the music culture, and it's a neat place to go and visit. I mean, we left because there's some crime issues, and they were, just kind of where we were living. But I still love going back to New Orleans. I mean, the vibe there, just musically and culturally and artistically, is really cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, my wife and I went to New Orleans for the first time about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and we went there instead of going to Las Vegas, which we've been to several times, but we went to New Orleans and we stayed pretty much around the quarter, and I believe it was right after, maybe a few weeks after Mardi Gras, and it had quieted down. It wasn't crazy like everybody had said it was, and I had heard a lot of people say, oh yeah, you should go, but be careful, and blah, blah, blah. We went. I was leery of it beforehand because I hadn't really thought of going to New Orleans ever in my life. I loved it. I want to go back.
That's great, man.
I'm never going back to Las Vegas anymore. There's just no point. I might as well if I'm going to gamble at all, it'll be in New Orleans, and the food there is 10 billion times better.
Well, my claim to fame in New Orleans is that I made $200 on a 75-cent bet at Harrah's.
Nice.
It was
pretty nice.
I was mad, though, because I had $3 left. I was literally betting $5 because I'd gone to Lake Charles a few days before and bet a reasonable amount more than that. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, well, let's just go see Harrah's. It was way nicer than anything in Lake Charles.
That's
I had $3 left, and I was this close to putting a $3 bet down.
Oh, my God.
And then the folks that I was there with, I was like, oh, are y'all going to be a little while? And they're like, yeah, we're still going to be here a while. So I was like, okay, well, then I'll just bet 75 cents, three quarters instead of $3.
Yeah.
And I was kind of mad.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's the hard part is when do you bet the full amount versus try to make it last.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as coming from New Orleans, was there anything musically going on there that really had an influence on you and what you do now?
I wouldn't have said so, except what's interesting is, New Orleans is very much a jazz city. Mm-hmm. And when I got to high school, I really wanted to do jazz band, and so I did. I definitely did it all 4 years, and had a reasonable amount of success with that. I wound up teaching jazz after. That's kind of my first job right after high school, which is funny because I graduated early at like 17, and so I wound up getting on staff at a couple of high schools around town. One of them in particular, several of the students were older than me, and their band directors made sure that they called me Mr. Adler. And I was like, I'm going to get beat up. Y'all got you can't do that.
That's a risky thing.
Exactly. But no, everybody was very, very nice and respectful. And I had a good experience there. And so it was just really funny because I never kind of pictured myself doing the jazz thing. And I thought back to it and I was like, I wonder if that's a New Orleans sort of influence because I really enjoyed that time.
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely could be. I think hearing some of your music, I can almost sense a little bit of that in there. Not a whole lot because it's not geared in that direction for the most part, but I can sense that you have musical experience, that you have not just a single point of experience, you have a wide variety of experiences.
Well, thank you. That sort of is the intent. I mean, I know that in high school I was definitely the nerd kid with the guitar on his back and like a Frank Gambale jazz chord and improv theory book, volume 2, under my arm. And
wow.
So I've always been a music nerd, and so like to this day it's like I always love it when I'm in the studio and I can just tell somebody to change keys and they know that it's 1, 4, 6, 5, and that's the progression. So it doesn't matter what key it's in because they can just do it, Or it's like, hey, why don't you sharp the 4 in that scale when you're playing it? It's going to give it a real Eastern sound,
Yeah.
But normally I can't tell people that stuff. I'm a nerd.
Yeah,
I'm a total nerd.
Right over my head. Not that
I can give you lessons if you want. I do.
Hey, that might be odd. Because I was in jazz band, but I only did it for 1 year. And I got really messed up. I started off by playing guitar,
okay,
and then we had too many guitarists, and I wasn't going to get any stage time, so I switched to bass. Unfortunately, I was also in jazz band with Mike Cross, who some of you might know. He's a pretty decently popular bass player around the area, and I think he's actually moved out of town now, but he was just too much to try to compete with, so I switched to the drums, and our drummer was kind of, sometimes he'd be there, sometimes he wouldn't be there, and so I learned treble clef, bass clef, drums. And by the time I finish with that, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So I just go by ear now, and it's somebody says, "Oh, sharp or flat," and I'm like, I know what you mean, but I don't know what you mean.
No, understood.
But now, as far as before New Orleans, did you have music growing in your heart before that? Did you have anybody that particularly grew that in you, or did you seek it out?
What I would respond to that by saying, neither of my parents were devout, like dedicated musicians to the point where they were trying to pursue that as a career. But I was always surrounded by music because my dad has one of the most rowdy musical collections you've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking thousands of CDs, thousands of records. When I was growing up, we would take a road trip. He would make mixtapes, and I would hear all of these because, of course, there were cassettes,
right.
Mixtapes, actual tapes. And we would just listen to them, and I would hear all these songs that I had no business knowing. He's very into progressive rock from the 60s and 70s, some psychedelic rock, a lot of oldies. So I grew up in oldies were my jam,
Nice.
And then I progressed, and when I was like 12 or 13 to classic rock. It's like, I'm still like 20 years old, I didn't get into modern music until relatively, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's my birthday. I'm actually turning 28.
Oh, well, happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you very much. But I would say, my uncle owned a CD shop. That's my dad's brother. He owned a CD shop in Amarillo called CD Planet, and they carried they supported indie artists and like the indie rock kind of scene, and including, I know it's funny because like indie came out of the word independent,
right?
But now it no longer means that. It's like a genre of music, and so they kind of supported both, from the independent artists around the country to indie rock and just different styles of music that I never heard before. And so he opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Just me walking around and finding some album art that I liked, and so I would grab the CD and listen to it in his listening station. And cool. But then on my mom's side of things, she always sang with her church choir. To this day, she does, and she's at Our Lady of Sorrows downtown. And she's here in town, so she would always sing in the church choir, and so I was always surrounded by music. If my parents weren't necessarily pursuing music as a full-time gig,
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, aside from that kind of influence and everything that happened in New Orleans, were you in any bands after jazz band? Were you trying to do the group band thing, or have you always kind of been more solo geared?
One of my regrets is that I didn't pursue it enough in high school, because I had a lot of friends in high school, and I feel like it would have been so much easier to start with a following, you know? I see these like high school bands, they invite all their friends, it's like, bam, 400 people.
Right,
I'm like,
exactly.
holy smokes, 400 people?
Instant built-in audience.
Oh my gosh. When I was in high school, I was actually in a band with a bunch of like late 20-somethings, early 30-somethings. It was actually, it doubled as the praise team for my church, which would meet at Grace Point, but it wasn't Grace Point, it was a church called the Deep End. And the band was called 07, but we weren't the popular 07, that was the dance band. We were just the San Antonio 07. And we had an opportunity to play some fun gigs, you know. There's this thing called San Antonio Metro that had 500 or 600 people there. And so we got to do that, but we were like just, you know, they were very good songs. I actually really, just to this day, I'll listen to the songs and I'm like, yeah. But, you know, we never put out a great recording or, you know, because we never had, you know, tons of capital because we weren't pursuing that band as sort of a thing that was going to be our full-time gig. It was like something that we all did on the side.
Right.
And I was about 14 when we put out that album, which incidentally I did find recently at the ISOM half-price books for $1.
Oh, wow.
It was there.
Did you buy it up?
No, absolutely not. I'm like, somebody else.
Somebody else?
This. I put it in front of Metallica. I'm like, buy this.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
And then I put out a little solo record when I was 16 that to this day, it's funny. I'm so embarrassed by it. Everybody tells me, you know, for 16, that's so great. And to me, I listen to it and I just want to throw up all over myself. But I had a band called The Frenzy. That was when I started really trying to bring the musical offering to the next level. The Frenzy was kind of musy, you know, very melodic and classically influenced, but very aggressive at the same time. But there was singing, there was no growling or, you know,
screamo,
like core, whatever the words mean. I just know they mean
titles.
shrieking and flailing about. That's really what all that means. And I don't have a problem with it. I just don't do it. I could never pull it off. Yeah, so we played some shows, and we would. That band was funny because we would play a great gig, and then the world's worst gig, then a great gig, and then an even worse gig than the first one that we thought was the worst one.
Wow!
Like we would play, like, some national acts would be coming in that had a pretty reasonable following, and they were bands that even I really enjoyed, and was really excited that I got to open for them at club. I won't mention any names.
Yeah, that's cool.
And concert promoter guy is at the door. I walk in. He's like, "Oh yeah, hey, so we forgot, but we booked this other band to play your slot like 8 months ago. So you can go ahead and play after the national acts. But I mean, you're like 21, so your crowd won't even show up till like 1 a.m. I'm like, dude, I'm a Christian artist. My crowd's asleep by 10.
Yeah, that's
you know?
a totally different vibe.
And so naturally, it's like saying, oh, you know what, Matt? You get to go on tour with Coldplay. Really? Yeah, but you have to play after them.
Yeah.
So naturally, everybody left.
Yeah.
And so we played like 2 songs and we left. But then we would play a gig. It was funny because right when it seemed like we were about to break into something that was, you know, like maybe hit that next level of popularity, you know?
Yeah.
We played a couple of gigs in a row where we started the title track of our record and everybody started cheering. And we're just like, y'all don't know what this is. Y'all are confused. And then they would sing along with us, and there's this instrumental breakdown that goes 4 on the floor with a very danceable kind of beat behind it. And everybody knew to jump at that point. We're just like, what's going on here?
Wow.
But then I'd gotten so fed up with the bad gigs that I kind of ignored the good gigs. And I realized, because like, you know, we were a Christian band, and so we would play clubs, but we would also get asked to play at churches and things like that. And so we were asked to play at this like 5K kind of thing at the end, at the finish line. But we're kind of aggressive, more rowdy. We have, you know, a lot of presence on stage, and we make a lot of noise. But it's tasteful. I never would think that it's like an ugly sound that's just painful, but it's louder than the average concert. Well, this 5K in particular was run by like 40-year-olds plus. And so, you know, there really wasn't an affinity there between what they would like to have heard and what we were asked to do. And so it was one of those gigs where like everybody put their fingers in their ears and they walked out.
Oh, man.
And so it was just like, so we would have a great gig and we'd have a gig like that. And so I kind of got fed up with that.
Yeah.
And so I went the complete opposite direction. And for several years, I did the acoustic singer-songwriter thing. To this day, I'm still sort of in that. But, you know, what I'm doing now is much more indie full band kind of,
Right.
we'll talk about, I'm sure, the record in a little bit. But
Oh, yeah.
but at that time, like literally, it would be like one acoustic guitar, maybe two, one vocal, maybe two, maybe some auxiliary percussion with some shakers and like a cajon or a djembe, spring drum. Like we try to make cool sounds,
Right.
But it was like now we can play for anybody and they won't hate us.
You can appeal to a larger audience. Promoters don't have to know who you are at this point necessarily because you can kind of blend in a little bit more with
Absolutely, and that was a very successful band. Actually, it was just a band called Adler, and but then after that, I still to this day have a lot of respect for somebody that can blow my mind with just an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Like that happened to me with Nicolette Good here in town. Like I played a show with her, I never met her.
I've heard of her.
Up to this point. Like we'd been on the same bill, but like never met, or like we would be on a bill like the day after. But then I had just played my set, and then she started playing. I just had to sit down and watch. I was like, I don't care. I don't want to sell CDs or merch. I just want to watch
And
her
enjoy the
because she's
music.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so, and that happens quite a bit where I hear somebody that can play and sing, and it's awesome. And I love that I can do that. So if I get asked to play an acoustic gig instead of a full band gig, my songs translate over.
Right, and it's a little bit more intimate. You get to interact with the audience, I think, a little bit more.
Absolutely, and I love that. One of my favorite gigs I've ever played was to two people.
Oh, wow.
Two people, me and the guitar. They would throw out songs. We just became friends. It was the most fun thing ever. I've played to big crowds too, but like that's one gig that stood out in my brain. It was like in New Braunfels at some coffee shop years ago.
Yeah.
I had a blast. But but what I'm doing now, I kind of missed because my heart is playing music that's emotional, so that the chord progressions and the melodies, they really go with the words.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a song that's all minery and sad sounding and put happy lyrics to it.
Right.
I want to make sure that whatever phrase that I'm singing at a particular point in time is supported by chords that make you feel the same way. And so, that's number one. And you can do that with acoustic as well as full band stuff. But you're sort of limited in that I missed the bigness of having a band. So I kind of combined the best of the bigness of the Frenzy with the best of the melodicism, the accessibility of the Adler stuff, and I combined that, and that's what I've been doing for the past 2 to 3 years, and I don't see myself getting away from that.
Right.
I put out a record in 2011 called Rearranged, and it was written out of a period of transition in my life where I was just going through the crap, just an absolute pile of mess. And so, there's some hopeful songs on there. There's some songs on there that just they're about mistakes. They're about people that have hurt me. They're about dealing with that. They're about the worries that I had going on in my life at that particular point in time. Like whenever I put out music, it's very indicative of what I'm going through at that point.
Right, which is the best music to make because you're in it and you can feel it the most and you can express it better.
And people can relate to the things that, people a lot of times think that they're the only person that goes through something, but nobody's ever the first and only person to go through anything.
Right.
And so it's very relatable to have a song about, like, I have a song called 24 that I wrote on the eve of my 24th birthday. It was like 2 weeks before, and I was like, I haven't accomplished anything. I was like, oh, that sucks. And so I wrote a song about it.
Even though you had already, in my opinion, accomplished quite a bit.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It didn't feel like it. I was still working the 9 to 5. I was trying to do the music thing, but it's also hard to do the music thing part-time. You're never going to quite get over that threshold. So it was such a leap of faith to just jump into it a year and a half ago. But it's been great so far. But that's another story. But anyway, so just that's what the Rearranged record was about. Came out in 2011, had a CD release at TriPoint, had maybe 130, 140 people out there. And I was really happy because I was kind of starting from scratch, from nothing, with no following, and just kind of wanting to do it for real.
Right.
For the first time.
Well, hey, that's actually a pretty decent-sized crowd for that kind of a first go.
I was really happy with it. The venue was so big, it actually looked like less.
Yeah.
Because, it has a capacity of like 900 or 1,000. And so when you cram 130, 140, I'm looking around, I'm like, there's like 17 people here.
Yeah.
But no, it was a good turnout. I had a lot of great support. And one of the things that's helped me through this entire process was having an amazing community of friends and family and just supporters that are there for me no matter what. And I love them all very, very much. And so at that point, I was wanting to do the artist thing, and then, I felt very much called to do just to have a complete shift in what I was going to pursue. In that, I knew that I had to quit my 9 to 5. I was at a state in my life where I had nothing. I had no money. All my material possessions were literally stolen from me. Like, I had nothing but a couch and $100 in my bank account. And I started having, I know this is going to sound kind of funny, but I started having these like as clear as day as I would be talking with somebody like I'm talking to you right now, I would have these like pictures of myself behind a mixing board, and I would daydream about recording people, which I always ever only did as a hobby. And I would even dream about it at night, where it's like, this is something that I really feel like I'm called to do. I feel like I need to do this. And so instead of going and getting all my musical instruments back so I can gig, I knew that I had to pursue production. Like, it's just a thing that I needed to do. So I put about $6,000 on credit at Guitar Center, like 12 months, no interest, no payments. It was about $6,000.
Wow.
I put it on credit, and I was just like kind of freaking out a little bit. I was like,
yeah, I'm
I don't know why I did this. I prayed about it a lot. I'm not going to lie, I did. Because I didn't know why, but I really felt like I needed to get a recording studio and start doing that. Because I knew I wanted to do music full time, but I thought maybe that's the avenue I need to take.
Right.
And so within a week of doing that, I had 5 clients. And I'd never told anybody that I had a studio. Like, I was just getting these referrals.
You hadn't gone public yet in any way.
I was getting these referrals from people I didn't even know. And so I freaked out about it, and I was like, wow, if I charge like $25 an hour, some small amount for, recording services, I could pay this off in a year easily.
Yeah.
Then the next week, the company I was working for, the 9 to 5, was bought out, and stock options that nobody ever told me I had paid out $6,100. So almost $1 paid off the whole studio the next week.
Nice.
So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be doing this. And so I quit. And for about a year, I focused primarily on production. And so I got to produce a lot of really cool artists that I've been really blessed that I don't have a lot of the riffraff, I don't have a lot of like this dude who can't really sing and write a song wants to come in and pay me to record his music. I'm getting a lot of talented people that are really nice people, have great hearts and write great songs, and it's really humbling and encouraging to be around them, especially with me as an artist, just seeing like what everybody is doing and just being able to be a part of that. So that was definitely something that was really cool for me. And during that period of time, I had an opportunity to go on a tour of Texas, and I turned it down because I just really was like, I'm focusing on production now. And then all of a sudden, the tables turned and everything flipped, and I started getting all these gig opportunities, and it just everything flip-flopped from I'm doing only production. Then I did way too many gigs, and I wasn't able to produce. And I realized that it really makes a lot of sense for me to have like all these irons in the fire, because 1 month, like my bottom line will be supported primarily by production, one by gigs, one by doing session work on other people's albums at other recording studios. I do teach a little bit. I steer clear of teaching for the most part, just because that, I have really right now 3 active students, 2 of which we're starting this month, one of which I've been working with for a while, and he actually goes to my alma mater, my high school alma mater. I didn't go to college, but and he's really very talented, and he's a smart guy, and I like working with the people that are really dedicated and make an effort and practice and have potential, and don't just show up and me tell them the same thing every week for 3 years.
Right.
So
somebody that's going to grow.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I am now. And so I guess the biggest concern, and I totally hijacked this conversation. I can talk. I don't know if you know that.
I'm glad, because I get tired of hearing myself talk. So this works.
Well, just kind of where I'm at now is I definitely feel like a pursuit of being an artist is now once again at the forefront of my mind. And so, I went about a year kind of ignoring that side of things. And I would take a gig here and there, but I gigged very little.
Right. And
so when I kind of started having the opportunities again, to play some of the bigger shows and all that, I just thought, well, my record's 2 years old. I need to come out with something else. And so just August 25th, so like a week and a half ago, was my CD release party at Sam's. And I was terrified, actually. I'm never nervous. The biggest crowd I've ever played in front of is 4,000. Wasn't nervous.
Wow.
but I was terrified. I was like terrified because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because I'd skipped so much of the gigging side of things. And when I got back into it, we definitely had a reasonable draw, more than I've ever had before.
Do you think that's in large part due to the type of music that you play, the crowd that you play to, that Christian kind of backing? Where people
I would say part of it, definitely. A lot.
Because that's a very tight-knit community.
It's a tight-knit community, and it's also a community of people that do like to support each other.
Right.
So absolutely, that has a lot to do with it. Also, just the fact that I am in a community of people that I get to do life with. It's large. It's like I've never had but maybe one or two friends ever. It's like I'm the person that I'm going to start dating this girl, and now we're going to seclude ourselves and we're going to just only
disappear,
hang out with each other. I'm never going to do that again, mind you, because I realized that ruined so much about what I love about my life, and that's social interaction and having that community. And so the happiest year of my life really was this past year where I've been single. I've just recently started seeing someone, but I'm finally like in a healthy place where I can pursue the amazing community and the friendships that I have and still be who I need to be, for this girl.
Right.
And so, I'm glad that I finally am in a healthy enough place to make that call. But so the community of people definitely is one of the most important things in my life, and it had a lot to do with the crowd. But I still don't really know exactly why, because, at Sam's about 250.
Yeah.
And that's after skipping 8 months to a year of attempting to grow my fan base.
Wow.
And it's been really, really cool. And I don't know, what my next step is quite yet. I'm actually meeting with, I have a couple of publicists that sort of tag team and I work with. And we're going to talk on Monday about next steps. Am I going to do a college tour? Like, what can we do to ride the momentum? Because there's a lot of momentum right now, which is a complete surprise. And I feel very blessed that that's the case. And, I keep running into people that were at the show that I've never met. It's not like it's like, some friends. I mean, all my great friends were there and family and, was there and all that. I'm not saying that they weren't. But and I love them very much, and just I can't thank them enough for their encouragement and support throughout my entire life. But the thing that I've noticed is I keep running into people that, hey, are you Matt Adler? Yeah. Well, I was at your show on Sunday. I'm like, why? Why were you there? I mean, that's great. I'm glad that you were.
What brought you there? Yeah.
Why were you? That's great. I mean, wow. And yesterday I went to run an errand at Local Coffee. I needed to steal their internets, and there was a girl there who I met at the show, and she was wearing a Matt Adler shirt.
Oh wow!
And I was like, what?
Is that pretty surreal?
Oh, it's amazing. It's the greatest feeling in the world. It's like, I don't know. It's one of the things that and I know this is maybe a more secular podcast, but I'm definitely a Christian artist. We talked about that, and it's one of those things that it's I'm struggling with now, is keeping my heart in the right place, because I don't want it to be. I mean, everybody enjoys the attention. I'm not going to say I don't. I love being able to go someplace and have somebody know who I am,
right?
And somebody that knows my music, or that they've really been moved or encouraged by my music. I mean, I really love that, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong to enjoy that,
right?
But I'm, as a Christian artist, it's been very tough for me to balance keeping my heart in the right place from, really what I do is ultimately not to glorify myself,
right,
and not to advance my story, but the story of God and Jesus. And so, I mean, it's something that I constantly battle with, but, I'm still kind of on the gig high. So, that doesn't really go away for a few weeks at least.
I wouldn't assume so. And I think because just a little bit of my religious background real quick, just to kind of set it up for everybody else as well. I grew up really kind of, my family was Catholic but not practicing. Yeah. Then as I got older, we went into non-denominational Christian churches and found a few here, found a few there. Didn't really find the right place. Even went as far as Seventh-day Adventist, then went back to just regular non-denominational. And it was a great experience. I played in the church band as a bass player as well, and I loved it. My views have kind of shifted, but I love the teachings. I love the morals that they try to instill, and I think that's important. When it comes to a musician who, it's hard to be humble when people are showing up wearing your shirt. It's hard to do that. And I understand that kind of having to live both lives, being, as you mentioned, secular in nature, being able to say, well, I want this kind of a crowd. I want to draw everybody and anybody that's willing to listen. And at the same time, keeping that Christian the Christian values instilled in you.
No,
I'm sure there's a battle.
Right. It's just a total battle. But what I would say also is, like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to exclude anybody from the potential of enjoying my music, because ultimately I write music, whether it's Christian or not. I mean, I really want to write music that sounds good, and that's good music regardless of the message. So it's almost like I'm a Christian guy that puts out music, and I just really hope that you like it.
Right.
You know, I mean, I feel like, you know, there's I don't want to say something horrible, but at the same time, it's like I really like some Christian music. I really don't like some of it.
Right.
I really don't like a lot of it.
And that's understandable.
But there's a lot of great stuff out there that just doesn't get the radio play. Like,
right.
You know, you've got these radio stations out there that they play just kind of the same 8 songs, and it's like, why don't you play Gunger? You know, there's a band called Gunger that puts out some of the most brilliantly musical stuff you've ever heard. Whether they're Christian or not doesn't even matter.
Right.
The fact that it is Christian is like, for me, it's like, you know, I grew up in the church, and then I went away from a little while just because, you know, my mom raised me Catholic, and I don't have anything against Catholicism or anything like that. I mean, I do, but I definitely didn't understand it, and so I never got anything out of it. But then when I finally started pursuing, you know, kind of the churches that I wanted to pursue, I really was able to, you know, to grow my own faith and whatever. But during that period of time, there was no good Christian music at all. At least
nothing
no
that was
church
appealing.
music, I should say. No
right.
Good, you know, because like a lot of it was just kind of the cheesy thing. There's that cheeseball factor that people so often associate with Christian music. And if I ever do that, I want somebody to slap me in the face. I don't want to be cheesy. If I'm cheesy, I want to be called out.
Well, see, and that's one thing that I have to say that I really appreciated listening to your albums is that if somebody didn't realize that you were a Christian and didn't really focus on the lyrics as much, and even then the lyrics, it is obvious once you focus on them, but the musicianship is just amazing that you appreciate it on a completely different level. And then for those that are Christian, when they hear those lyrics, they get to appreciate it on yet another level. So I think that's something that is intrinsically different with you compared to other Christian musicians who they put all of it on one side and they don't have that balance of good musicianship behind it to where other people that are not in the church are going to pay any attention. I think you've got that draw. Is that, I mean, that's why I selected to play I Do on the Blog Talk Radio 210 Local Music Radio episode, which is now coming to a much higher quality. So for whoever tuned into the other one, the quality was bad. It was free. Sorry. Now we've got sponsorship.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm so happy. Thanks. I have to thank www.parachutepromise.com for that. It's an 8-episode sponsorship, and what I want to do first is re-release the episode 1 of that radio episode, which has I Do on it, and then release episode 2, which is 3 albums from 2 different artists from beginning to end. And I'd love episode 3 to be your album.
That'd be great.
From beginning to end, straight through.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I really do believe that you've got that musicianship, that power behind you to appeal to any kind of audience, really. I mean,
thank you.
Well, thank you.
I tried.
And I'm really, really sorry that I missed the Sam's Burger Joint CD release. I'm just
Mario and I are enemies now.
Yeah, it's not good. I feel horrible. He's just doing this out of the kindness of his heart.
No, it's no problem. The show was amazing, and there will be other shows, and you know, I'm not worried about it.
Well, are there any other plans immediately in the near future, or is it still building, like you said, to try to do a larger tour?
Well, both. I mean, they're kind of coinciding a little bit. I mean, I've got a show this Sunday. I don't know if this will air before then, but it probably won't. But it doesn't matter because I'll mention it because it's a cool show. It's in Fredericksburg. It's a music festival called Zion Fest. Abandoned and Seventh Time Down and Ryan Stevenson are headlining, and I get to play that show. October 5th, I'm playing a show at Wonderland Mall, another music festival out there. I think I play at 6, and that's going to be full band. Like, you know, what's cool about this Sunday that y'all won't even know about because it happens before this gets released. But it's cool because
travel back in time.
You know how we've talked about, you know, I really like playing the big stuff, full band, I mean, you know, electric guitar, the whole 9 yards. But I also do have an affinity for the more stripped down indie kind of situation. Well, on Sunday, we're doing, it's going to be me on acoustic and vocal. My cajon player, he's my drummer, but he also plays cajon, and he's got hand cymbals. And so when you mic him up like a drum set, he sounds like a drum set, but it's a cajon with cymbals.
Wow.
And then a brilliant piano player and vocalist, cellist, my studio session cellist is going to play with us, and an electric bass player. So it's going to be this like really cool, like indie kind of raw,
vibe,
folky, but it's going to sound big too. We had our practice yesterday, and it sounded ridiculous.
That's awesome.
In a good way.
It's awesome when you can get those types of instruments and that kind of a band setting on that small scale to sound immense.
Yeah, and we're playing the record. It's a little different, instead of having some of the more, unique, like on the sound, on the title track, there's this like bell part on the chorus, and there's a timpani and some just really kind of cool arrangement stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, like I to strip down sort of that arrangement, I transcribed all that for the cello, and so now she's, well, not timpani, you can't play timpani on cello, but but like the bell part and some of the weird stuff, I moved it over to cello instead of the Rhodes piano and some of the more synthy stuff. It's just going to be piano. So it's just going to have this really cool vibe, and I'm excited. October 5th at Wonderland Mall, 6 p.m., that's full band. That's going to be a pretty rockin' show. October 18th, I'm actually opening acoustically for the Digital Age in Bellerive.
Oh, wow.
So the Digital Age is the David Crowder band without Crowder. They kind of are responsible for all the electronic aspects of that music. Okay. Crowder is the bluegrassy guy, and so he took off, and his beard is rowdy. I don't even know why I talked about his beard, but it's very nice. It's a good beard. But Digital Age, they just put out a record. It's phenomenal. Bellerive is one of, like, I played a show with them in May, having never heard of them. It was me, Bellerive, and the Robbie C. Band from Houston. Oh, wow. And Bellerive is like indie. I have no idea what they are. Bellarive, and they're phenomenal. And so they're coming back, and I get to open for them again. So
that's great.
That's highly recommended, because those guys are. That bill is going to be really cool.
Yeah, it sounds really
cool. So yeah, just stuff's going on, and I'm trying to figure out what my next steps are going to be.
Yeah. Well, actually, that kind of leads into your social media marketing. Do you handle that all on your own? Do you have anybody that helps you with that?
Mostly I do. I do 95% of it, but every so often my publicist will jump on to my Facebook and like create an event or post a photo.
The reason I ask is because I don't know, I think it's extremely important that musicians and bands now utilize social media to its full extent, and you've done that. I believe that, I retweet whatever I see that you post on Facebook. I try to share your links through 210 Local Music and my own private page. And with that, anybody who's listening, definitely pay attention to the Facebook page, because once again, I'm going to share everything that I get from you. So if stuff pops up between the dates that you've heard and going forward as well, I'll definitely be sharing that and a link to your own website on the webpage. 210
much appreciated, definitely. Basically, all that you need to know is Matt Adler Music. Adler, my last name is Adler, first name Matt. So mattadlermusic.com, facebook.com/mattadlermusic, Twitter handle, Matt Adler Music, Instagram handle, Matt Adler Music.
Was that hard to do, or was it pretty easy?
It was pretty easy. I wanted it to be Matt Adler, but that stupid North Shore actors stole all my Google traffic. But I'm really happy because I used to be on like page 4. Like he used to take the first 4 pages of Google results. Now if you search Matt Adler, I'm in the top 5.
Yeah.
So I'm working my way up, but
that's
I
good.
can't compete
Google
with IMDb
SEO
as
right
much.
So. Yeah, that's true. But hey, there's time
I'm
for that.
still young, I can.
There's time for that,
I plan on being the next Tom Cruise, converting to Scientology and doing all that weird stuff, jumping on couches.
Yeah, I was going to say yelling at
things,
Oprah.
Yelling at Oprah. Naturally, that's what it takes to be successful.
You just yelling at Oprah. Even though she doesn't have a show anymore, does she?
No, but she's got her magazine, so we could do an interview like we're doing now, and I can
then just yell at her.
Yeah.
So how would that look in print? Matt yells.
All caps.
All caps.
Yeah.
So as we kind of talked before, you're not signed to a label. Actually, skipping that part. I read somewhere that you actually released the sound previously and then had to completely scrap it.
Well, it wasn't released. What happened was...
You had it finished.
It was done. And I listened to it, and it didn't sound like me at all. It sounded... The first of the real solo records, the 16-year-old one does not count at all. But the one that came out in 2011, I find myself very much being able to be creative for other people. And I always have a constant... I have to be creative on a daily basis because I've got clients coming in to record albums with me. And,
right.
So, I can come up with a chord progression like that, but in terms of the arrangement ideas, when it came to my music, I was finding in 2009, 2010, when I was really wanting to start working on that solo record, that I was never happy with what I came up with for myself. And so I went to another producer who did a great job. But what I noticed is that, inevitably when you work with a producer, you kind of, a lot of times that producer leaves some of his fingerprints on the record.
Right.
Not that it's bad. It's not.
Right.
At all. I mean, I'm happy with that record. I'm really thrilled with all the help that I got from that producer, but I really felt like I wanted this record to be a little bit more me. Because there were things that I listened to on the first record that I was like, I enjoy that, but it's not what I, would have done. It's not what we sound like live.
Right.
We sounded like when we would play live, we would sound a little bit more like the sound. So I did the sound, right? And so I finished a version of it, an EP. It was done.
Yeah.
I sat there and listened to it, and I was like, this is almost a progression of the first record, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted to do something, because, one, I get a lot of acoustic gigs, and so the original intent was for me to kind of go back to the Adler record type thing where I was doing a little bit more acoustic-y, but then I was like, no. I tried it. I brought in my drummer guy came in, and I was like, no. He had a drum set, but I was like, don't play it like a drum set, okay? Just like, we're going to make sounds, and we're going to do a folky thing.
Yeah.
And every time we tried that, I wasn't happy. And so it turned into a full band thing anyway, but with indie folky elements. But I definitely, produced it all, arranged it all. There are a couple of covers on the record, and then everything else is original. But it came out much more me.
Right.
And what's kind of interesting, because that first record, I am going to have to release some of it at some point, because there was some cool stuff on it. Like the opening track, the intro of the new record is basically just a redone, more folky version of the intro that was on the old record.
Oh, okay. So
that never saw the light of day. And that song that intro went into a song called Thank God, which right in the middle of it has a freaking awesome dubstep breakdown. Now, obviously, that doesn't fit on the new record, but it sounded really cool, and I would love for people to hear it, even though it's not on the record.
Have you thought of just doing one-offs?
Yes. Like one of the songs that was going to be on that record is a song that I actually wrote about the girl who I just started seeing, but several months ago. It's a song called The One That Got Away, which totally stinks because the Civil Wars put out their song called The One That Got Away, and I had that one written like 6 months ago.
It was already in the can. It was ready to go.
It was done, and I threw it away because it didn't fit with what I wanted to do. But I actually was giving that single away for free for folks that would promote the CD release. Like I always like to do incentive things, and you talked about the social media marketing kind of thing, and I'm always doing stuff like that. So I'm sure there'll be another opportunity for people to get it for free, but I'm thinking it's actually going to probably be on the next record, because I've come up with a concept already, and I'm going to be putting out the record in a completely different way, where like as the songs are written, I'm going to record them and have a soft release, basically hey, look, this song exists now, go buy it on iTunes for $1.
Right.
So after a year, or a year and a half, when all the songs are done, then I'll have a soft release, and probably not a CD release show, more than, hey, I'm already done these 12 songs, and now they're going to be compiled onto this album.
If you want the album, here we go. Yeah.
So
that's good. I think that's a good strategy, because it lets that slow trickle come out to where people are like, oh, okay, now I've got this. Now I got to wait for the next thing.
The trickle, absolutely. And even, what my theory behind it was that's really how people are consuming media now, is digitally, which I personally can't understand, because I love getting a CD with the album art, flipping through the liner notes, seeing who produced it, who played what label, the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I consider it art. Album art is art to me.
Absolutely.
And I've bought albums because I love the cover.
As you mentioned back at the record shop that you were talking about, that's what initially grabbed you and gravitated you towards that music was the album art. And I completely agree. I mean, unfortunately, I do consume digitally, but whenever I can get the actual album, the actual physical, either, well, not cassette anymore, but CD or even vinyl.
8 tracks.
Yeah, exactly, 8-track. What is that?
The hand-cranked cylinder from the 1800s, the original phonograph.
Yeah, or the piano roll that fits into the piano that automatically plays
naturally.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that I'm angry at people for consuming digital media.
It's another way to do it. But
for me,
the appreciation
I need the artwork.
Yeah.
I need the album art. I need to be able to flip through the liner notes and all that.
Well, shoot, the San Antonio Current has an entire, I don't even know what it's called, a segment for somebody winning based on their album art. And I feel that the people that aren't releasing album art in any way, shape, or form are kind of limiting themselves from that kind of exposure. Just kind of add into that just a little bit, I think, like Nine Inch Nails, now that they're doing something different now, but before they'd release stuff digitally, and they would do a trickle. They would put out one song here, one song there, but they would always release the album art, and it would be a huge PDF file that was just like 10 pages long. And I loved that because, yes, I was consuming it digitally, but at least I got to see what the intent was. And I think they understand that. And I think a lot of musicians are kind of losing track of that. Not that it's horrible to not to have it, but it's a benefit to have it.
I think it's an experience. You know,
oh, yeah.
When you're listening and looking at it, I think it all works together, you know, a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being dumb.
No, I completely agree.
I get that from my dad. Not the dumb, but he's very smart. But no, it's I know that he's the same way. You know, you should see the walls. He's always had a music room in his house ever since I was a child.
Yeah.
And it's just a room filled with CDs and records.
Wow.
And at one time cassettes, but there's no more cassettes.
Yeah, 8-tracks.
No 8-tracks. I never saw any 8-tracks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, my parents had crates. We didn't have a room for anything. It's just in a giant crate, and you had to go and search through and find stuff. And I did it based on album art as well. I just started looking through. This looks weird.
Looks
What's
good.
this? The Eagles. Who are they?
Well, to show you how annoying that me and my dad are, we came up with this separately, but it just shows you the kind of we're similar in some ways. That so we sort our music because I have a reasonably large CD collection, not like him. I mean, but so I'll sort my. I decided like this made sense in my mind.
Okay.
Sort by artist alphabetically, but within the artist, you don't sort alphabetically. You sort by release date. So the one all the way right is the most recent release. And I was talking with him one day because I was looking and I noticed that none of his within the artists, none of them were sorted alphabetically. And I was like, "Are you sorting by release date?" He was like, "I am."
Dun, dun, dun.
You're so smart. That's what I do. You know. So, but he's got so many. He actually has sort them by genre, and genres on different colored shelves. And
oh wow,
you know, it's crazy.
Man, I wish I had space for that. And I live in a one bedroom apartment, and that's why everything's digital now. I've got bins under my bed with CDs, with all the CDs and all the cases and all the artwork, and they just sit.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, but it always just cracked me up when I had that conversation with him. It was just like, we're dumb in the same way. I love that.
So going back to the album, who were the musicians that you worked with? I know you had mentioned a few that were going to be helping out with some shows coming up. Were they also at Sam's Burger Joint?
They were also, yes, and it's really cool. Just having a cellist live is really just, it's so great. I didn't know how great it would be, and then she came to the first practice that I had invited her to, because she was only playing on a couple songs then at the CD release. She played on, I think, 2 or 3, and I just got goosebumps, man. It's so much more epic with a cello, you know, because she's really good at what she does. But the people on the record were pretty much exclusively the people on my praise team at my church. I go to the Park Community Church. We actually just moved to Eisenhower Middle School at 10 a.m., and I lead worship out there. And the folks that lead worship with me up on stage in the praise team, they were the ones that, the drummer guy that I've been using, his name is Dave, and he's ridiculously good, and he does that whole cajon with hand cymbals set up at the church. Like we do kind of what this Sunday's gig is going to turn into, that folky kind of indie whatever. That's what we do at my church. Oh wow. So it's not like standard U2 worship. Right. Which is, I don't have a problem with that. And sometimes I would even like to do that because it's just, it sounds, some of these new arrangements are huge, Yeah. But we definitely have a different vibe than any church I've ever been to. It's more, like I mentioned before, like Gungery or even Civil War-y a little bit, But, we get really large, though, in terms of sound, just because we want to emulate being a band without being a full band. Right. It's 2 acoustics, a piano, 2 male vocal, 1 female vocal, Dave on cajon and all that. We have an upright bassist that plays sometimes, an electric bassist that they alternate, and then a guy on djembe, he just came back. So it's like all that allows us to make big sounds without actually being an electric band. But, all the vocalists that ever sing with me there, they all came in and did the gang vocals on Passenger and on the sound. I think my mom actually came in and sang a little bit on the sound, too. And my dad helped engineer some stuff when I was, because when I'm playing, I did most of the instruments on the record. Oh, wow. And when I'm in here recording, I can record myself playing piano because it's in the room over there with the computer. But if I have to play acoustic guitar, I'm in a separate room, which is the room that we're sitting in now. And so I had to get my dad to come in and press record and kind of run things over there. And so it was really cool because I got to have my parents in the liner notes. And that's really neat. Yeah. And so I'm trying to think of... No, actually, I did have one person play that was not on the praise team. He's a guy named Cullen. And he had played, he and the band that he plays with, or the artist he plays with, her name is Hannah Ramos out in New Braunfels. She's really very, very great artist. And they were one of my first clients when I started out full time.
Oh, okay.
And so he had done some bowing of an electric guitar. So he would use the violin bow and the electric guitar, and I really wanted that sort of droney sound to open the record. And he's the only person I know that can do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, Cullen, I need you. And he came in, and like 6 minutes later, he was done. He literally just held one chord for 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And then I had him double it, and then I panned him left and right. And then I sent him on his way.
Wow.
But Cullen, if you're listening, I miss your beard.
You seem fascinated by beards.
Well,
Yeah, you've got a nice beard going. You have a much fuller beard than I do. I'm actually jealous of that because I would like to.
So first you don't come to my show and then you insult my beard.
No. Beard is awesome. Okay. I just picture when I think full beard, I'm thinking like the guys from the Heroin where the beard is just like down to here.
Those guys.
They're amazing. I got to see
Linwood's like the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, they all are. I think
I don't think I've met anybody else in the Heroin.
Really? It's usually Linwood and Dee Dee that you kind of see, but Derek's awesome as well. But the rest of the guys are real nice. But they kind of seem a little like, we're the drums, we're the bass. We're gonna chill out behind the drums and the bass. They're not as out there, but they're nice guys. Yeah, they're real nice guys.
That's awesome. I actually played a Battle of the Bands at Sam's actually a few months ago, and they and Hydra Melody played.
Oh, nice.
It was such a crazy bill. It was like them, Hydra Melody, Terra Firma, me, Ryan Proudfoot, who's a client of mine, the Exit Strategy, who I think came out of Racing the Messenger, like and then who else? Attica.
Oh, wow.
So, man, it was a great lineup that day.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Holy
Jeez.
Smokes.
That's funny. I'm actually going to be interviewing Terra Firma later on today.
I don't like those guys. I'm kidding. I love Terra Firma. I'm kidding. We've played some shows together, and yeah, they're great.
I was
awesome.
Talking
with, I think, Matt Charles. He had sent me a copy of their record before it was out, and got to listen to it. And I think we've played together twice, maybe.
Yeah.
I would do it again, too, if they invited me.
Well, do you have a message for Terra Firma that I can tell them on air? Aside from that you hate those guys.
No, that's it.
That's it? Okay.
That's the one.
I'll let them know.
Matt says he hates you. What do you think about that? I don't hate them. They're awesome. I love Terra Firma. I'm just teasing.
I think for me...
Check them out.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. It's funny because you also mentioned Hydra, and I did an interview with Hydra not too long ago, and I think that was episode 9. Yeah, I believe.
I went to high school with those guys.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I've known them for years. They had a band called Ready to Fail, and then they switched over to Hydra, and they told me what they were going to do stylistically, and I was like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Can y'all do that?
It's a big sound. And I think that's something that I'm finding more and more is that it does take that big sound to get that attention. Then you can pull it back in afterwards, and you can do acoustic stuff and do that more intimate kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm big on the large sounds. I just really am, and that's what when I first heard Hydra's new stuff. I mean, it sounded great, but then I saw them live.
Yes,
and then it's like, holy smokes, that's like. It's one of the things that I'm really struggling to do as a producer is to try and emulate that large sound. Mm-hmm. Because, there's nothing quite like on Passenger, there's a part where we cross the bar. It was like I yell kind of like the tag of the song, was, I want to go for a ride. And then we cross the bar and we all come in on 2. It's like, I want to go for a ride. Bam! And you hit it really hard. And on the record, it's cool. But live, it's like, now I pooped.
Yeah.
That was it. That's... As you can tell, I'm very, very mature and responsible and charming on-air personality.
He is. I can say that. And I'm not just kissing up because I've already upset him twice.
He might be.
But it's funny, talking about that wall of sound, Hydra, Terra Firma definitely has that huge sound as well, because I saw them open for Hydra, and that was just an amazing show. Seeing the Heroin, oh my God, they have huge sound.
The Heroin is so much fun.
They really are, and it's funny because I don't really consider myself a huge fan of Southern rock, but it makes you move. It doesn't even matter. It just breaks down that barrier, which, as I said before, is kind of what you do with the whole secular and Christian rock thing, is that you break that barrier. You don't have to fit inside that box. And for me, the Heroin doesn't fit inside a box. Terra Firma doesn't necessarily fit inside a box, and neither does Hydra. And I think that's something that musicians are finally starting to learn, maybe. And whether it's through production or whether it's through the way they write or just stylistically who's in the band or what comes together, people are starting to break down those barriers.
Cool.
And I think...
I like that observation. I mean,
well, thank you.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think that's what it takes, and hearing that you had kind of had that album already in the can ready to go and scrapped it because it wasn't you, it wasn't your sound, it wasn't where you wanted to go, and to hear that you just started all over again to do that, I think as an artist that's a huge commitment. And I think it takes that. And I think people that do that deserve to be listened to. So I'm really looking forward to having the sound in its entirety on episode 3 of the 210 Local Music Radio.
That'd be great, man. I appreciate the support.
Of course.
The fact that you reached out to me, that was really exciting for me. I was like, yeah, here's a copy of the record.
Yeah.
But notice I gave you the digital copy, then you walked up and I gave you the physical copy.
Which was awesome because I'm such a fanboy. So this is to all bands that I will interview in the future. I'm a fanboy. So if you have merch that you want to give me, I will gladly take it because I'm poor.
I'll take free merch as well. I mean, I just throwing it out there.
So Matt and I will definitely take free merch from wherever we can get it, and much more importantly, signed. I have a huge collection of signed stuff now, and it's growing and growing and growing. And I'm definitely glad to add this album to that. And as you can see, I've got Terra Furnace right here, ready to go. When
I don't even have a copy of that. I'm gonna steal this.
No. I got to get that signed.
Stolen.
I will get another copy for. You know what? I'll get another copy from the guys.
Dude, you don't have to.
No, it's good.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yay.
Hey, we did a swap. There you go. You gave me.
This wasn't even yours to give.
But thank you, Matt, for signing the album. I really appreciate it, and I'm so excited.
Absolutely,
to have that physical copy because it is important to me, and I think it should be important to everybody.
It's great, man. No, I definitely appreciate the opportunity and just the fact that you seem to enjoy the record and your support and what you do for the community definitely is awesome. And I can't wait to see where you end up and where the music scene as a whole of San Antonio ends up in the next 6 months to a year. I mean, because things have been moving pretty fast. I feel like, we were chatting before we started recording, but in the last 5 years, things have just really started. There's been, and it's not just music; it's just the whole
scene,
artistic scene. We're getting everything from trendy restaurants and food trucks to new venues to First Fridays blowing up and just there's so much cool stuff happening now in the city of San Antonio, and
it's ready to burst.
Exactly, and so many people are just Austin. It's like, well, we know we've got some stuff here too now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a different flavor than what Austin has to offer. Austin's got its thing, and we love Austin, but
I'm not gonna lie, I do really love Austin.
Yeah, but it's different here.
Yeah,
and
it is.
It's whether it's the culture, whether it's the music culture, the underground culture, just everything is different. And like we said before, I think it's ready to burst, and that's really what kind of got me into this. Is maybe hopefully hoping to help the bubble burst and to help the music spread.
Yeah. I'm just happy to say that there is a scene here.
Yes,
because I can tell you some horror stories of 5+ years ago. And now it's like stuff is happening.
Yeah, well, back 5 years ago and back, at least my experience was I'd go see a show at the White Rabbit. I'd go see 5 bands that I've never heard of, and then I'd never hear from them ever again.
Yeah.
And I guess
now there's only 4 bands you never heard of.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I got used to that aspect of people just, we couldn't make it happen, so we're done.
Yeah.
And it's sad. So to see an artist go from being completely like, I don't have any money, I'm going to invest in myself, and I'm going to come up, and I'm going to release an album. Oh, wait, hold on, let me fix it. And then release it to a really large crowd for Sam's Burger Joint. And moving forward, I'm excited to see what you've got in store.
Thanks, man. I really, it's not about, I'm just super blessed. I can't take any credit for it because I'm just along for the ride.
Hey, you're a conduit. But you're a great conduit, so...
Thank you.
I think that's what it takes.
Thank you so much, man.
Of course. And I know I kind of kept you a little while. The last couple of questions I have, just something that I ask everybody, and this might be a little bit different for you because of that aspect of not taking any credit for yourself, of course. The initial question is always, if somebody were to write a book about you, what would it be? And you can either take it in that regard, or if somebody were to write a book about what you do or who you do it for, what would the title be?
The title?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Put me on the spot. See, to me, if there was a book written about me, it wouldn't be written about my career. It would be written about the just horribly unfortunate things that happen to me on a regular basis.
All right. Do you have a...
So maybe the title could be like, "Oh, that's sad."
How many W's would that be?
The Matt Adler story.
Oh, that's sad. That's really sad.
No, there's nothing. I mean, okay, horrible things have happened, but by and large, I'm talking like these are just the little stories of hilarious things that happen to me. Like if you get to know me a little bit, you start hearing those stories. They are never ending. It's just like So here's a terrible thing that happened to me today, and then I have to share it, and you're just like, oh, that's sad. So I think that's my mantra, I think.
So what would the title be, though? Would it be
All
just
That
All
Sad,
That Sad?
The story, yeah.
Interesting.
By Mario.
Oh, no, I'm not a writer.
Oh, come on.
For those that have listened to the podcast, they know that I had a blog for like 2 weeks. The last, because I just can't write. I'd rather talk.
But even if you can talk, you can get it transcribed.
That's true. So if anybody out there wants to transcribe stuff for me, that would be amazing, because apparently they pay a huge fee everywhere that I've looked for transcriptions. But anyway, all that's sad. That's where it's supposed to come in. Oh, that's sad. Last thing, really a gearhead section. Everybody kind of asks, for musicians that are up and coming, for myself, just looking at the mics that you've got, I'm like, oh my God, how do I got to get some of this stuff, because everybody knows that my sound has been plagued with either just bad stuff happening, rain while interviewing Slow Like Fire, or
I cannot believe that you let it rain.
It was bad. And I guess I ticked off Mother Nature. I said I didn't like her beard, and she just went off.
I enjoyed that. That was good.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
No, you won't. This is my studio. You're leaving after this. But so from a live performance perspective, I'm a Martin acoustic guy, and I don't think I'll ever be anything other than that. Well, no, that's a lie. Larrivee, I do love Larrivee, although I've never, my gear is Martin. My main guitar, acoustic, and my main backup are both Martins, and I just love the way that they're thick and huge sounding.
Right.
Even when it's just me and a guitar, I can make big sounds.
Yeah.
I can't stand guitars that are too thin for people that are playing acoustic and singing, and that's it.
Yeah,
I need something that makes it big. I want to have a big sound. I always have wanted that. It's funny because I lived my whole life buying kind of mediocre gear and trying to fix it up as I would get money. But I finally, for the first time ever, this past year, have nice gear from an electric standpoint. I play a Deluxe American Tele through a Vox AC30 C2.
I'm finding a lot of people playing Tellies a lot more than they used to.
I just love the chiminess of that. Like if I throw it on the bridge pickup, I can play, alternative, indie, pop punk, whatever, all day, but throw it in the middle, and I've got just the most glorious, clean sounds ever. And then you've got the S1 selector switch. You pop that, and all of a sudden you've got a more aggressive sound in the middle. I don't know. It's just you can do a lot of things with it. Knock it over to the neck, and you sound like a Strat.
Yeah.
Right. Which I never ever use, but still, I could do it if I wanted to. In terms of what we're experiencing right now in the studio, you're talking into a Neumann TLM 103. I'm in a blue baby bottle, all going through a Focusrite ISA 828 preamp into Pro Tools 10 on the other side.
Nice.
I have CAD mics, I have Audio-Technica mics, Audix for drums, Orange cab, Vox AC30 in the mixing room, and the cable runs to the Orange cab, which I mic up in here. Got a Les Paul. My bass is a Squier, but I attest that it is a reverse lemon. I went out with money. I didn't have a lot of money, but I went out with $500 to buy a bass, and I played everything $500 and less. And my favorite bass was the $180 Squier.
Nice.
And it sounds nice. Like it's a reverse lemon. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like I use it on all my records that I put out. So if you don't hate the bass, it's the legendary Squier bass tone.
Interesting.
Korg MIDI controller and synthesizer. Well, it's not a synth. It's a piano, digital piano. So yeah, that's what I do.
Cool. Now, earlier we went over your links, everything Matt Adler Music, wherever you can find it.
Yep.
And, of course, on Google with the good, awesome SEO. Aside from that, do you have people that you want to plug? I mean, in particular, we can plug your studio. I know you said that you're moving locations, though.
I will be in February. My lease is up here. I'm not, none too thrilled about the current space that we're in. But I do have Splendid Studios. Been in business since May 28th, 2012.
Wow.
Technically, I've been doing some projects before then. I was taking evening projects out of my home when I saw the 9 to 5, but I've been doing it full time. So maybe 2 to 3 years I've been doing the Splendid Studios thing, although I've been helping people record and doing it as a hobby, quite a bit longer. But, you can go to mattadlermusic.com /production, or just go to mattadlermusic.com, and there's a link right at the top that says music production. Okay. And you can actually hear samples of what I've done, so you can hopefully come to the conclusion that I don't suck. And so if you need any sort of recording services, I'm definitely always looking for new clients. But we book up pretty fast here, so just get in touch and we'll get you on the calendar. But beyond that, always looking for shows and opportunities to gig and lead worship at churches and just do my thing, play weddings. I don't care. give me $100, I'll play underneath an overpass if there's an outlet and I can plug my little PA into it. So.
I think that's what everybody, people just want to be heard,
Absolutely.
Just want to get the music out there.
Yeah, so hit me up, friend me on Facebook, like me on Facebook, and
follow on Twitter.
There are free songs available, mattadlermusic.com, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Matt. I really appreciate your time in this amazing studio, which, you're right, it is very cold. But aside from that...
It's very, very cold.
Aside from that, I'm in awe. This is awesome. I love it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that very much.
Can't wait to see what happens at the new place.
Oh, me neither. Thanks so much,
Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Deserve. I want to know you, but not like lines rehearsed. I work to show your love here on earth. We are the redeemed. This is the sound of angels singing. This is the sound of cold hearts cleaning. Hear the sound of nations bringing praise to you. We're giving praise to you. We live to love you, but then you loved us first and died the sinner's debt we deserved. We are the redeemed. This is the sound of angels singing.